and I will try in the next 15 minutes to give you an introduction in what is perhaps right and wrong with refrigerants, and how does it relate to us, and what perhaps we can do about it. The whole story actually starts quite recently, because about 150, 160 years back, when you wanted to preserve any food, when you needed refrigeration, you had not much in options. You were just harvesting some ice if it was possible, transported the ice somewhere, and that was used for cooling then. And then when we had a lot of technological progress in the 19th century, in particular in the area of chemicals, and also how to use them, then ammonia, chloromethane, sulfur dioxide, and hydrocarbons were used in order to get refrigeration. But of course, those days the technology was, let's say, not really safe, because people were just experimenting with it, and we had accidents, of course. Then ammonia, if you inhale it, actually, it's toxic. You have hydrocarbons which are flammable. Even CO2 can lead to asphyxiation. So safety, of course, is an issue when you use those chemicals for refrigeration. And those days, the technology was perhaps not that good, and accidents were really frequent. So then in the late 1920s, when CFCs were developed, chlorofluorocarbons, it was seen as a huge progress, because those were actually safe chemicals in a way that they were non-toxic and they were non-flammable. So it was quite obvious that they would be put to use then in large scale for refrigeration. And here's just one picture of Frigidaire, which was then one of the first refrigerators which were using CFCs. And in those days, CFC was seen as a wonder chemical. And then from the late 1920s to, let's say, till the mid of 1990s, or actually even till 2010, when it was completely phased out in terms of production under the Montreal Protocol, hundreds of millions or millions of tons of CFC have been produced. And when in 1974, Rowland and Molina showed that CFCs significantly contribute to the depletion of the ozone layer, a lot of tons, millions of tons of CFCs and similar chemical substances had already been pumped up into the stratosphere and were doing damage. And Chandra said these are short-lived pollutants. Yes, but still 100 years, around CFCs, around about 100 years. So what you actually have now in the stratosphere is still very well active, because whatever has been pumped up over there since the late 1920s, and I would say it was peaking in the 80s perhaps, and we still will suffer from that. I have some pictures to show that later. Just a few facts and figures on the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning markets. Heating and ventilation also is to be included here, because sometimes you use those chemicals also in here. Is about $100 billion US. So this is huge, this is big. Of course, most of it is equipment, but the refrigerants also play an important role in this, because they are actually at the beginning of the entire chain. So the designs of all the equipments have to take into account what are the available refrigerants. And if you have only chlorofluorocarbons, then your entire industry for refrigeration and air conditioning will only build compressors and units, machines, which use that. So it's also, by choosing a particular refrigerant, you are choosing a certain technological path for quite some time. The HVAC sector accounts for about 40% of commercial building energy consumption worldwide. I think those who are coming from Asia or even Africa immediately understand why, because yeah, you need a lot of remove from heat from the buildings. So you have a lot of air conditioning. Air conditioning nowadays is one of the largest consumers of electricity. China now manufactures about 100 million split air conditioning units for household use or for small office use per year, and this is still growing. We had growth rates of about 14% per annum over the last 5 years. In India, we are still, let's say, quite low because here we have 3.4 million units sold in the last financial year, but it's also growing by 8 to 10%. And if you want to get an idea of where it can go, let's take the US, where you can say it's a mature market, and here we have an air conditioner penetration or air conditioners per capita of 30%, which is 100 million units. So each household perhaps has more than one air conditioner on average. India's AC penetration is just 3%, and so if India also takes up a similar lifestyle as in US, or let's say if India gets richer, it's clear that you would take up more air conditioning. So you just get an idea of what is the potential, and then just sum it up somehow. 40% of your electricity goes into air conditioning. If you get your air conditioner sector growing by 8 to 10% per annum, just imagine what it actually means in terms of electricity consumption, but also don't forget, that's what I'm talking about, you also need more of those refrigerants. Here just a few facts about those refrigerants. You have here in red CFC for refrigeration. That has been taken as the benchmark, so the ozone depletion potential of CFCs has been set as 1. As Chandra also explained, CO2 is set as 1, just to compare it as a denominator. The global warming potential of CFCs, here it is 10,900, some scientists even put it higher. So that's what Chandra said in the beginning. Our CFC, in particular this CFC 12, which was used in car air conditioning and in refrigerators, is not only harming the ozone layer, but it is also tremendously contributing to climate change. Then, as Chandra also already introduced, we in the Montreal Protocol were trying to get rid of the chlorofluorocarbons, but the industry was saying, yeah, you can try, but we need an alternative, or do you want to go back to your ice harvesting in 1850? So then people were saying, okay, what can we do? And then the industry came up and said, okay, we can give you at present perhaps a transition. We give you HCFCs. And maybe later than 20, 30 years later, we will have a better solution for you, which can tackle ozone depletion completely. So we went from chlorofluorocarbons somehow to the hydrochlorofluorocarbons. They have much less ODP compared to CFC 12. It's only about 1/19, 1/20 of that. Also, they have less GWP, but still very high GWP. So HCFC 22 is the refrigerant which is most likely in your room air conditioner. So there are perhaps some hundreds of millions of air conditioners out there, and all of them have HCFC 22 as a refrigerant, and approximately maybe a kg or so. And there are more problems with that. Your air conditioner has perhaps a lifespan of 10 years, a little less maybe. Yeah, usually the way they are installed and also the way they are built, sometimes not of the highest quality, it will lead to leakages. So after 2 or 3 years, perhaps you have to ask your service technician, please come, my air conditioner is not cooling anymore. And what will he do? He will top it up. He will just bring in new refrigerant. So over the lifetime of your air conditioner, perhaps it gets charged 2-3 times, maybe even more. And in the process of charging, also refrigerant is maybe being wasted because the service technician doesn't know how to do it rightly. So we are talking of huge numbers of refrigerant gases being used here. As I said, the industry said, okay, from CFC, we can only go to HCFC right now, and we try to look for a better solution. The better solution they came up with then were HFCs. HFCs, as you can see here now, they have an ODP of 0, but still they have significant global warming potential. And where's the pointer? I just want to point out one important refrigerant here. This is HFC 410A. ODP is 0, but the GWP is 2,100. HFC 410A was meant to be the replacement of HCFC 22 in all your room air conditioners. You get the idea? Okay, we reduce ODP, but we increase GWP. They say, okay, yeah, that's what we have to do, but okay, maybe these are sealed systems. We will contain it somehow. We will control the damage. But actually, when I show you here in green, propane, that was a refrigerant which was used, let's say, before the 1920s, but now we have much better technology. So why not going to propane, which has ODP of 0 and a GWP of 3 instead of 2,100? And then all the things started. Propane did not have any lobby. It is a natural refrigerant, so you can't have a patent on it. And then the industry was saying, no, 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 we have to take other refrigerants. This is flammable, this is dangerous. No, 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 you cannot do that. Similar story with all the other sectors, air conditioning, refrigeration. There were actually solutions. For example, here, this is for refrigeration. You could have had isobutane in your refrigerator. Again, ODP 0, GWP of 3. But majority of the industry in the mid of the 90s was switching from CFC to HFC 134A, which has a GWP of 1,430. So on the one hand, Montreal Protocol was working. We were phasing out CFC. But on the other hand, we are phasing in another devil with GWP. And you need to understand, in the developed countries, we have saturated markets, perhaps, but in the developing countries, we still have unsaturated markets. US, 100 million air conditioners, 30% in terms of per capita. India, 3%. So same thing with refrigerators. So we are phasing in refrigerants in growing markets. So there's only growth and more consumption of those refrigerants. Here's just a glimpse on what is happening with regard to the ozone layer. Here you see 1979, where the ozone hole, this is the blue colored area over the Antarctica. Yeah, it's already quite huge. It was just, let's say, yeah, it was not really detected yet, but it was already big. But then every year you can see it growing, growing, growing. And this is the impact, because more and more CFC was pumped up into the stratosphere, and then it stays there for about 100 years, and it leads to depletion of the ozone layer, particularly in the Antarctic winter, which means September. So when it is really cold over Antarctica, then actually, and then the winter changes from winter to summer, and then you will actually have the most of ozone depleting activity. That's why the ozone hole usually is largest in the month of September. And you see it's growing. We don't have data for 1995 for some reason. Yeah, still it's huge. Perhaps, yeah, it's somewhere in 2006. Maybe it was peaking in 2006. We don't know yet. But what is actually happening is, yeah, it has been stabilized. So the scientists tell us, due to the activities of the Montreal Protocol, we have actually been able to control CFCs, so no more CFC is going up to the stratosphere, but still what is active over there is still working. So we might just now be peaking. And actually this year, the ozone hole in September was larger than last year. This is perhaps due to some climate activity in Antarctica, because I think we had a very, very cold Antarctic winter this time. So that would be the explanation. So scientists tell us it's fine, but the patient is not dying, but he is also not yet truly alive, but maybe in 40, 50 years, he will come back to life. That's the perspective. Oh, yeah. Yep. So this, yeah, I think I will. So this is here the achievement of the Montreal Protocol, by understanding that there is a problem with CFCs and getting to grips and bringing together most of the countries in the world, agreeing to a controlled phase out. Now I think my presentation has been phased out. So by agreeing to a controlled phase out of these substances, the issue was addressed. But on the other hand, we were phasing in then these HFCs. And the chart I wanted to show you is we know exactly how much of CFC has been avoided now. And of course, then we can calculate what does it mean in reduction also of CO2, because we know the GWP. So one can say the Montreal Protocol, by phasing out CFCs, has also tremendously contributed to phase out of global warming substances. But on the other hand, it has done a bad job by allowing for the use of substances which have also high global warming potential as alternatives. And that's why last night in Dubai, some people were sitting there in the night and trying to negotiate another deal where the world would actually try to reduce HFCs also. And I don't have any result from it, but I think we are still not yet at an agreement, what I heard. We have an agreement that we have a contact group. Yeah, since 7 years, the countries were only debating whether they should have a contact group to talk about it or not. And one of the reasons for that is, of course, that you have also industry behind it. You have lobbies which are very strong. And the question is, what will then be the alternatives? Will we go to hydrocarbon? Will we go to CO2? Will we go to ammonia? Or will we get another group of chemicals which may bring, again, some harm to us? Is it coming?
Yeah,
okay.
Your presentation has been phased out.
Phased out.
Frankly, that has been phased out.
I just continue like that.
Yeah.
So you don't need to see the charts, actually. You can just imagine how it goes. What is important to understand is that this refrigerant market, which is also a multi-billion-dollar market, there are actually only a few players. You have a few huge companies like Honeywell, DuPont, which control the markets and which have the patents on the new refrigerants. And of course, they will try also their level best to convince the negotiators, or some of them, to broker a deal where they will get the maximum benefit from it. So it's not only about the best technical solution, it's also sometimes simply a negotiation on who gets most of the money out of it. And I must say this industry, which started in the late 20s of the last century and started this fluorochlorocarbon business, they have already managed to make the world addicted in 3 cycles to those chemicals which have environmental problems, issues. And right now also, I would say there is now a 4th possibility that again we will get some chemicals and later we will find out that actually we had made the wrong choice, and we have alternatives available, and that would be nice if the presentation would come back, that I can show something about this. Otherwise I have to just explain it. As I said, we have hydrocarbons, we have ammonia, we have CO2. We had problems with those refrigerants, let's say 100 years back. because at that time the technology was not that good. But now engineers have come up with quite good solutions. So now we are actually ready to use those technologies. And government of Germany, I'm actually working for GIZ, which is an implementing agency of the government of Germany, has then supported such projects where we were saying, let's do something about it, and let's promote those refrigerants. They don't have a lobby, but let's show the world that actually it's working.
Markus, can I request you to just go to some of those solutions on the market and we'll finish it? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I want. But right now we don't have that.
Now you have this and you don't have that.
You can only have one at a time.
So I again just have to make a story. In 1993, when we had just German unification, so there was before West and East Germany, eastern part in the former Soviet bloc, and then all what they had developed in technology after unification was actually deemed redundant. But there was a small, not so small, it was actually the largest refrigerator manufacturer in the East Bloc. And that company had a technology to use hydrocarbons as refrigerant in their refrigerators. And they were just about to go bankrupt. And then, where is it? So that's called the Green Freeze case study. So this company, Furon, which was in East Germany, and they had this solution to use hydrocarbons instead of chlorofluorocarbons. And then Greenpeace was buying this company for a symbolic price of 1 Deutschmark, so that would be something like 30 rupees. Of course, it was indebted, but they were buying this company, and with the support of all their followers, Greenpeace managed to get something like 50,000 orders from all the Greenpeace supporters. They were saying, I give you money now, I make a down payment to get that refrigerator because I understand your idea. Or there could be a refrigerator which neither uses ozone depleting substances nor global warming potential substances. Let's have it. So with these 50,000 orders, Greenpeace asked Furon, please bring out those refrigerators. They did it. And then people were using it, no accidents, everything was fine. And before, all the big guys of the industry, Electrolux, Siemens, Bosch, whatever, name it, they were saying, no, this is crazy, or you will see people who buy this thing, they will have accidents, you will see houses burning down in India, people will, whatever, get the ladies in the saris will burn, all these things were said, and strangely nothing happened. And then very soon, actually, this technology was also exported to other countries. And China was taking it up with the help of GIZ. India also took it up, at least one manufacturer in India, Godrej, he is using this technology since 2002, selling more than 1 million refrigerators every year, and no accidents, nothing, no burning zaris, no exploding kitchens, nothing. And now we actually have about, let's say 50%, more than 50% of all the refrigerators all over the world being manufactured in such a way that you can use isobutane, which is a hydrocarbon, as a refrigerant. So actually it can be shown, and it can be safe. And it is now even becoming the most dominant refrigerant because also the energy efficiency of using the hydrocarbons is better compared to those systems which are using HFCs.
Markus, we have very few time now. So
yes, now I just come to the core. We did it those 20 years back, and we did it again in 2009-10 here in India and in China. We helped Godrej here in India to have a production line. We also paid for that production line to manufacture air conditioners with propane. Everyone was saying, this is crazy, you guys, you will just face problems, these units will just explode, etc., etc. No, they did not explode. Godrej has sold now more than 100,000 units in the Indian market, and everything works fine. So actually we have technologies to leapfrog from HCFCs or CFCs directly into natural refrigerants like hydrocarbons, CO2, etc. We do not need to use those patented hydrofluorocarbons, or even now the next generation is hydrofluoroolefins. We can simply avoid going that technology path. And that's something which I really would like you as journalists to ask, have an eye on those initiatives and ask the questions. Why are some people are proposing to use those refrigerants which contribute to global warming? Everyone knows it. And why we are not going the other way? Of course, you will get as an answer, yeah, but there's this, there's flammability, or there's still some other problem with it. Yeah, fine, but we can address those problems. Why don't we apply our minds to address those issues? And it has been shown that it can work in most of the sectors. There may be few exemptions where you can't use it and we still have to wait for better solutions, but that should not be a reason to delay the introduction or to use those refrigerants in the majority of the appliances. But that's actually the logic which is being applied also in the negotiations of the Montreal Protocol, that people tell you, yeah, we have some exemptions, and because of that, you cannot go for air conditioning also. You cannot go for refrigeration also by using those substances. And I think this is completely wrong, and this needs to be overcome. And even if people sit at the negotiation table till late night, it doesn't mean that we are safe, because we don't know what will be actually the outcome of those negotiations, because there are many, many lobby groups, and those lobby groups, of course, try to bring in a solution which may be sold to all of us as a good solution, but actually it may be not. So I think I stop here with the presentation. You can get it as a download, I guess,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
it's quite self-explanatory. My email ID is also there. You can send me a question, and then I rather sit down and answer questions.
Okay, thank you.